Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tinseltown tonight. I have a very special episode, and I'm so excited to let you know that we have a amazing featured guest tonight. He's a good old friend of ours. Everybody knows him. It's the Cowardly Lion. And welcome, Lion. How are you?
I'm well. I'm very well. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate this, and we're doing this at a special time just for you. I know that out in the wilderness where you live, the time difference can cause some problems, so thank you for showing up on Blab today.
Time means no difference in Oz.
Oz. So tell me about yourself. What have you been doing lately?
Well, aside from ruling my kingdom because I am king, I've been walking along the tundras and making sure that all the animals are keeping what they're supposed to. Very busy day of hunting for my pride and taking lots and lots of naps. That's the day in the life of, yes, and making sure that, no other witches show up, and that's okay. If they do, I can fight them.
You can fight them. I believe it. So that's what we're here to talk about today is courage. And I know that you've been interviewed and used as an example as a hero. And I wanted to tell you that that is pretty awesome. You are a hero to so many people for overcoming your fears. And let me find
thank you.
Notes here. What happened? Oh well, I guess I'll have to go without my notes. So tell us, what do you think you? Someone here says, "I want to learn about courage, but I'm afraid to ask." That's awesome. What is the main lesson where that you have found that courage is important for you in the workplace?
Courage in the workplace, yeah. Let's see. So the most important thing I can think of as courage in the workplace is having the courage to be able to know when the right thing to do, to be able to speak up when something doesn't sound right, but also having the courage to not talk too much and to listen actually more than I speak.
That is so amazing. It's so important. And, because it does take courage to be quiet sometimes and just to listen. I have a little note here on that. Yes. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. And it is also what it takes to sit down and listen. That's a Winston Churchill quote. Let me put that right here. I'm going to hold that up. I don't know if you can see that.
Uh-oh. Getting ready to do a blab inception. Ah, yes. But I'm not familiar with, he doesn't hang out here in Oz, but that's a very wise individual indeed.
For sure, because you said it, and a lot of people who respect Winston Churchill would say that too. So here's some more questions about courage. What is the secret to feeling courageous? Do you have a secret to feeling courageous?
The secret that I know to feeling courageous is being okay with accepting failure, knowing that you have friends to help get you through, that you don't have to do it alone. And also being courageous means being able to accept being successful.
What does that mean, accept being successful? How do we even become successful if we're too afraid to overcome all those obstacles?
Lots of practice, I would say. It's lots and lots of practice. It's not something that comes easily. We like to listen to the fear and the self-doubt and everything that builds up in our mind and think that we're just not good enough, that we don't have it in us and that somebody else is better to do it. And why should we be able to try and do it? And it just takes practice of listening. And it helps to surround yourself with other friends that can sit there and help build you up as well. Because, again, we don't have to do it alone. We can, in fact, it's better if we build together than try and create on our own.
That, that speaks a lot to collaborating and having a partnership in business. Do you have somebody who has your back in your work?
Well, I'm king of the jungle, so everybody has my back. I just need to allow them to have my back, I guess is probably the best way to do it.
Well, what about with your friends? Are you still in touch with Dorothy and the Tin Man? I mean, do you support each other in that way?
Well, Dorothy doesn't stop by Oz much anymore ever since she got whimsied off in those fancy red shoes. But the Tin Man, yes, he does stop by, and Scarecrow as well. And then, of course, we have the Wizard, who is all-knowing and powerful and is a great console to us all.
Is that your go-to mentor? Do you have a mentor in as far as someone to help you be courageous?
Yes, I believe that you all have something called Google that's your go-to, and our go-to here in Oz is the Wizard.
The Wizard. That's who you go to. That's pretty awesome. Here's another great question that Colin is putting in here. Do you recommend mental rehearsal, or is it more of a physical experience?
It's probably an adaptation of both. I would say it's speaking to yourself. So one of the ways that I wake up in the morning is I have some mantras that I say to myself when I get up, and I am king. I should walk like a king. I am a warrior. Stand and walk like a warrior. These types of things when I first arise in the morning. That is something that I say to myself because we have all these different thoughts that go through our head. In fact, I believe there's between 45 and 51,000 different thoughts that we think during the course of a day. Might as well make it a good start to the day by saying something positive, reaffirming to yourself. I have lots of notes written on different things around. And then again, it is about kind of a physical type thing. So dressing the part, getting up and being dressed and not moping around. And it just depends on how you're going. Clean up, clean shave, whatever can help make you feel better. Do those types of things.
Yeah, for me, it's putting on lipstick. It's literally putting on my best face or putting my best face forward. And I completely agree. And the notation in the side here is so you strap on a persona. It's not a fake persona. It's bringing yourself, your true colors up. Would you agree with that, Lion?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I would believe this.
It's
believing in yourself. I never liked the old fake it till you make it expression because that's just not it. It's more just begin believing in yourself and it'll happen. Believe that. And again, it takes a community. It takes a pride to be able to build you up and be a part of it. And when you're down, those people should be there for you and help lift you up as well.
Well, that's awesome. I was reading the article by Jonathan Morrow. He wrote a blog post. This is way back in 2011, but every word of it is so appropriate for today. And he is best known for writing on copyblogger.com, but he has even just posted as recent as the last couple of days. He's on Twitter. If you don't know him, it's John, Jon Morrow, Morrow, on Twitter. And he wrote The Cowardly Lion's Guide to Conquering Your Entrepreneurial Fears. And one of the things he said, besides you being an unlikely hero, was that there's a lot of things we can learn about your story to become aware of how to conquer our fears in business or in life. And one of the things he said is that to get disgusted with yourself. And that when the Cowardly Lion comes across Dorothy and her friends in the woods, he's so overcome with shame, he can't stop weeping. You probably don't want to think about that, but you desperately wanted to be courageous, and that desperation is what propelled you to see the Wizard of Oz. So how does, over the years, has that thinking about those desperate moments pushed you to become more courageous? Does that make sense?
It does, and so I'm guessing that it helped everybody's got a bottom that they have to hit and realize, and part of that bottom hitting that bottom is the realization that you finally understand it can't be any worse than where I'm at now. Right. And picking yourself up and just strapping that on, but then keeping that point as your pivot. And that's what I did. I kept that point as my pivot, and it was, might as well give it a try. It's like there's an old saying that I know of that if you never ask, the answer is always no.
That's true. That's a great one. I'm going to try to remember that. How does it go again? When you don't ask, the answer is always no?
If you never ask, the answer is always no.
Good. That's good. So this is so great. It says it's counterintuitive, but for most of us, this is the way motivation works. If you want to do big things, stop waiting for a time when everything is perfect and wait until you feel comfortable, because it'll never happen. And you're far better off thinking about how crappy your situation is, getting really frustrated with yourself, and using that to push yourself to make changes. So that would be some type of motivation, really. If you feel like you're cowardly or, not properly prepared, just push yourself to get that way. What do you think?
Yes, I would agree with that. Very much. It's we have our comfort zone, and we like being in that bubble. And I like never having to have ventured out and never having to stir the pot and voice an opinion and all that. But what I found was that I was miserable on the inside, I was not happy, and so I lost myself. And part of the stance is stand up and move forward and just, as I've heard some writers at times, just publish the damn thing. It's never going to be perfect.
So true. It's so true. And what is perfection anyway? I mean, I think that we are all perfect just the way we are. So, the note in the side here, Colin says, are we saying that once things reach critical mass?
You need to pause and refresh. You're real scratchy now. Just pause the recording and refresh.
So, we had another question about, what was it, about the worms? What was that? Let me go back.
It was a book that Colin was talking about, he read, and so I said, well, I'll have to go wizard it.
Oh, okay. So, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about discovery, and how when you have a quest, that gives you a chance to grow and prove yourself. And so what kinds of quests have you experienced, if you know anybody in business who have put themselves in a path where they're pushing themselves and being courageous in the sense that they're learning new things? Is that something that's important in business, to be able to adopt new things and learn and discover?
Oh, yeah. So one of the things that I always coach people on is always be coachable. And that even applies to me. And I always have to try and remember that. You always have to leave yourself open for new ideas, for new inspiration. So when I go as a Christian and go to church, one of the two things that I've always been taught to do is, one, what is God saying? And what is God saying to me? And it's the exact same way with everything else that we learn throughout life. When we close ourselves off, then we close ourselves off to the ability to grow, both as individuals and as a part of a community, being able to grow to help serve the community that we're there to serve. So, yeah, it's very important. And as a quest, one of the things, let me talk about the quest real quick. So, quest, goals, end results, whatever. As we went to the wizard, one of the things was there was the path, the quest to get to the wizard. And so there was the start and the end point of actually reaching the wizard. And one of the things that we had to remember is that it's one step at a time. And we need to break those things down. As much as I enjoy a good steak and love devouring it all in one jump, it's not very good on my indigestion system. So instead, I have to cut it up into bite-sized, manageable chunks, and then I still get to enjoy that steak.
I really, I hear you. I'm trying, you know, I'm not, let's see how I put that.
You went scratchy again.
I did.
You did. Why don't you switch over to your mobile phone? Let's pause.
All right. Pause.
Here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, we're talking about courage and going. I was about to try to make a point about when we're business people, when we're creative, such as myself, and I have a lot of different things that I like to do. I reject this common business practice of having a niche. And I know it's so important to have, a target market and to have a focus. Yet I want to do a lot of things. And so to me, I find it's my challenge to discover and rediscover myself and then just hone in on my best practices. So do you have any advice in that area?
Well, I do, but you're probably not going to like it. You should not multi-niche. And the reason is because the message will get confused, you'll get confused, your audience will get confused, and nothing will ever happen, and you'll never make it to any of your destinations that you want to, or it takes so much effort and time, you just frustrate yourself and wear yourself out. It's not to say you can't serve multiple different niches, just don't cross them over. It's kind of like campaigns. Campaigns need to have a goal, and that goal only needs to serve that one campaign. And don't cross over and try and bring in multiple things because, again, you confuse the message, you confuse the audience, the community that you're trying to serve. You want to make sure what you build has the least amount of resistance possible. And so if you're not focused on one house, build your house, get your house in order, build this house, get that house in order, build this house, get that house in order. If you don't, then what happens is all the houses just come tumbling down and you get squashed by the house.
It's good advice, but you're right. I don't like it. But that's because I'm not an expert in business. But I do want to become better in business, and I'm feeling like courage is something that I come back to again and again because it's conquering those fears. And part of the fears that I have are being successful. And a lot of times when I get that close, I'll say, oh, now I want to try something else. And I never forge ahead. So that's the challenge. And then that kind of leads me to the next problem that people have with courage is that listening to that inner critic or that inner voice. And how have you mastered that, lion? Courageous lion.
Listening to my inner voice.
The inner critic that says to yourself, you're not going to do it.
I know him very well. So my inner voice has to have help. And so one of the ways that my inner voice has help is by me making notes or signs. One of the signs that's above my work area is what you're doing right now, building your business. Mm-hmm. And that always helps refocus me back in because I love all the socialness and all that type of stuff and can get caught up in all the cat videos because I want to see my fellow furry friends out there. But if it's not helping me build my business, then it's not doing me any good. And so you have to limit that type of stuff. So that's one of the biggest things is just making sure that
what does the sign say?
Is what you're doing right now building your business.
Is what you're doing right now building your business.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's great. So it's asking you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I'll have
So
to
it's just
remember that
little
one
things
too.
like that, and it's just having an accountability partner to help amplify that inner critic voice helps as well.
That's great.
Of course, if you don't
So,
listen to the accountability partner, then there's no point in having the accountability partner. So,
well, you have definitely gotten to a point in your life, Lion, that you can command a room of people, and in business, how as an entrepreneur can somebody do that if they don't have the confidence performing? How, no matter how the crowd is, how do they build that confidence? Am I getting that question right? Do you see that on the side? How is it I could command a room full of people as an entertainer, but as an entrepreneur, I don't have that kind of confidence
than I do when I'm performing, no matter how large the crowd. So I do understand the question. So what I would suggest as being the biggest possibility that I'm hearing is that when you're performing as an entertainer, you're not thinking about what you're doing at that moment. Everybody that you've practiced, but then when that moment's there and you're up on stage, it's just whatever works out works out. If things happen, you have to live in the moment and all that type of stuff, and you just go on. But I guarantee in the beginning, one, you weren't that way. Very, very few people are going to be the type where they can just pick up and go and do something of that nature. Now, if you're that type of person, then you are in a huge minority. So it's practice. It's just getting up and it's doing it small. We all sit there and we see these keynote speakers out there and they've got these large audiences and they're like, I can do that as well. And you've not even spoken to a group of 10. Mm-hmm. If you embody your story and practice what you preach, then I guarantee that you'll be able to carry that over from entertainment to entrepreneur. So the biggest problem that I hear is you're not comfortable with what you're saying. That's probably where I'm trying to go. All kidding aside, all the makeup and all that type of stuff, you're not comfortable with where you are, with what you're talking about. And it's not that you don't believe in it. It's not that you don't like it. It's not that you don't have knowledge in it and all this type of stuff. But what you're doing is you're muting yourself because of outside influence. You're seeing all these other people and what they're doing and all this type of stuff. And it's all this noise that brings up. Trust me, I've been there myself. I'm there all the time. I have to catch myself. It's kind of like when you, and we've all done it, the Smiths got this brand new big house. Gary V's got this new book coming out. This person just did a launch and they did a 7-figure launch. All this type of stuff. And it weighs it back in on us and what we're doing. And we lose the focus on ourselves and we become jealous of what that's really what it is, even though we don't want to admit it. It's more like jealousy and all that type of stuff. And here's the hardest thing that you'll ever hear. You don't love your story as much as you love those other people's stories. And that's the hardest thing for us to hear because our egos want to get in the way and all this type of stuff. But it really, really is true. When those things happen, you don't love your story as much as you love theirs. Right. And so you need to inflect back upon yourself. You need to hone it in and look at what you're doing and listen to it. And if you haven't got a marching order plan and start it out correctly, so if you don't know who your audience is, which may be another problem, is that you're talking to a whole general audience, and one, you don't even know if they're the right audience for you, but also you don't even know if what you have is going to help them because it's more of what you came up with in your head than what actually helped them build for you. So if you don't know your audience, and I mean down to the person, and whenever I say that, people are like, well, I want to sell to everybody. Okay, if you sell to everybody, you're going to get nobody. That's right. Just, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Stop being greedy. Hopefully those things will help. I mean, we could certainly go more into it. You can catch some of the replays on my live channel that I've done as well if you want. I go over various different things talking about stuff like that.
Well, getting back to courage
Hi, Cindy.
Our question, hi, Cindy. Our question here is like, I'm hesitant to blow my own horn, she says. And I think that's really important because that fear never goes away. If we, consulting John Morrow, who interviewed the Cowardly Lion, that feeling never goes away, but you got to keep doing it anyway, and you got to stop sweating and be willing, to go forward even when you have those feelings, and just push through. You've got to blow your own horn. You've got to believe in yourself enough to sell yourself.
Nobody is going to blow your horn for you.
Right.
And I know my sick mind where this conversation could go. So I won't go there.
Don't go. Well, you're a lion. You could get away with that a little bit, I guess.
If anybody knows who Red Fox is, he used to do a stand-up routine, and one thing he always sat there and said was, "Little boy blue, come blow your horn." Little boy blue needs a friend. If little boy blue tries to blow his own horn, he's going to break his neck. Okay, we're done. She can edit that out. Nobody's going to blow your horn for you. But blowing your horn is not about standing up and about me. I never coach about that. I never preach about that. I always talk about, and like I said earlier, you need to listen twice as much as you speak. Engage other people's conversations on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Blabs and Periscopes and all this type of stuff. When you're in there and you see other things, if you've got something that's interesting that can add value to whatever's going on, add some value to it. If somebody pops up a question and you can add some value and maybe offer some insight on it, do that. When you do that type of stuff, you're building yourself up as the authority figure that you are. And you don't seem like a blowhard who's soapboxing with a megaphone in the middle of the room going, me. It's never about you. It's always about everybody else. But again, it's an ego thing. So you got to sit there and do that. But that's, so saying nobody else is going to blow your horn is kind of counter against what I just said. But again, it's the same thing. Nobody's going to have those thoughts come out of your head and through your mouth. So you've got to be able to do it, but you got to be comfortable with, again, what your message is, what your product or service is, who your community is that you're serving. If you're not comfortable in those because you don't know. So if I go to you and I sit there, here's what, okay. So who's your target market? Women entrepreneurs. Okay. Who? You got to go deeper. You got to know the person that they do. You got to know what they wake up and are they married? Are they divorced? Do they have children? What do they Google? Do they watch Oprah? What is it that they read? What are their fears when they lay in bed? And all this type of stuff. You got to get really, really super specific and give this person a name and all that type of stuff. So that's what you got to do. And did that help? I'm not reading any of the comments on the side.
I know. That's okay. I think she just left with that you hit it on the point and hit the point, and that she loves everyone else's story more than her own. And getting back to that, tooting your own horn and knowing who it is that you're trying to approach. I think I have, this meme here. I went through some courage memes today, and I'll read it. The greatest act of courage is to be and own all that you are, without apology, without excuses, and without any masks to cover the truth of who you truly are. And I think that speaks to what you're talking about, just knowing yourself, believing in yourself, and knowing who you want to reach.
You've got to love your story. Yeah. All of this is an expression of your story, body, mind, and soul. Absolutely everything that you have in here needs to illuminate the love that you have for your own story. And it sounds selfish, but it's not that you can't love other people's stories. You just can't love other people's stories more than you love your own. That's just absolutely silly. But we do it all the time. So absolutely. And that's a great meme quote. I agree completely with it. It's just, you got to love yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that takes courage. It really, really does, because we get so browbeat by, you're being selfish. Well, it's just, there's too much PC that goes on in the world. I don't even want to get started on offending and all that type of stuff. And
well,
when did sticks and stones may break my bones become irrelevant?
I think it really comes to feeling worthy, of that love, and whether we believe in ourselves enough, and that we're worthy of the love that we get back when we tell our story and sell ourselves to whatever it is that our business is.
Yep.
And so, I think that. How do you feel? One last question, because I know your time is so valuable, and you need to get back to your pride. But how do you feel about mindset? And to me, I use intention. Having an intention, I think it's similar concept as far as planning in business. But do you think that it all comes down to mindset?
It does. It comes down to how bad you want it. While we all need breaks and stuff, do you need to be watching 15 cat? It comes right back to what I was talking about, is what I'm doing, helping build my business. It comes down to time management. It comes down to knowing what you're doing. A lot of us lose sleep at night, or have trouble sleeping, or have trouble arising the next morning. We're all draggy and everything, and it's dread and fear. And it's because we have no plan set out with intentions that we can accomplish in order to get to our goal. We look at the goal and we look at where we are, and we think it's just one big leap.
Right.
Just one step at a time. So absolutely, mindset is and that takes practice as well. What are you filling your mind with? Is it positive and helpful type stuff? I love The Walking Dead. I love Suits. I love, The Flash and all these TV shows and movies and all that type of stuff. I love that. But, there's a time for that. And then there's a time for getting down and getting serious and putting the priority and the intentions straight. So, yep, absolutely. Mindset's good.
Well, Mr. Lyon, you are so courageous, and Mr. Vaughan, you are so courageous to come on and be here with me on Flab as the Cowardly Lion. I'm so excited about it. Thank you for all of your wonderful advice. If you have any parting comments, now is the time to do it, and put your link in. And I'll put mine in, and our friends here can share it and go to our websites and find out more about us.
Well, what I'm going to put in is so I do a show called Now What's Next? And so that link right there will actually take you to the Facebook group where you can request to join. And I encourage everybody to join in there. It's all about community. Plus, it's the easiest way right now to figure out when my next Blab's going to be.
Great.
So that's what I'll pop in, and then, yeah.
Great.
My website's still got some under construction stuff going on. So,
But please visit the Facebook group there for David Vaughan. And for me, everything goes through MsMeliz.com. I'm known as Ms. Meliz on most social media. And my name is Melissa Reyes. The show here is Tinseltown Tonight. I interview people who inspire me and who are superstars in my life. And David Vaughan is a superstar. He will be back, I hope, as a guest, as himself, and we'll talk about some more, topics that are relevant to what we're doing here. But today he came on so graciously to speak to me about courage, because courage is the theme for my week. In my practice, I do life coaching. It's through art and cognitive behavioral therapy and just positivity. And so I'm moderating a lot of Facebook groups right now, but I'm trying to focus on my message. And today my message is about courage. It takes courage. It's really where it all starts. So thank you. Thank you. Your final thoughts on courage or Blab communication and community, I would love to hear.
Oh, final thoughts on courage. I guess I'll end with the same thing that I started off with, which is have the courage to fail faster and have the courage to accept being successful just as fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
And
wonderful.
thank you for all the kind words. It's wonderful. I've had a great time.
Oh, it's so much fun, isn't it? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to say that one more time then, because I like to repeat things and make sure I get it straight. So
have the courage to fail and fail faster, and also have the
courage to fail and fail faster. Hi, Austin. People are starting to come on now, of course. Something must have just ended. Have the courage to fail and fail faster.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody was messaging me about something. Bird, squirrel. That's what it was. I'm looking for dinner.
You're lying. How
have the yeah, I know I'm lying, aren't I? I'm lying about lying. Have the courage to fail and fail faster, but also have the courage to be successful and be successful faster.
Awesome. Have this courage to be successful and be successful faster.
Yeah.
So
I think I messed it up, but it's on recording, so we can go back and
okay. And you can see the replay Blab at 10-minute, but also on MsMeliz.com, where I have it embedded there and will be on YouTube. If that's okay with you. Here's one more quote that I have that I found today that I want everyone to leave with, and this is a Walt Disney quote. Everybody knows who Walt Disney is. I'm sure you do, Cowardly Lion. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. So definitely. And you know what? Just like Walt Disney, you may not see how your dreams come true, but if you believe it, it will happen. So
absolutely.
Thank you. Absolutely. And thank you, Cowardly Lion, for being with me. You are my hero. You are awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad we didn't sing. We were going to do the Katy Perry song. I thought the Eye of the Tiger.
Well, you don't want to lose viewers. You might lose viewers if you do that. If I sing,
I can't sing either. But the lyrics to that song are on MsMeliz.com, along with all the memes that I had talked about tonight. So please go over there and check it out, and then also link up with David Vaughan and follow him on Twitter at I am David Vaughan.
That's right. So, I am, and follow her and pay attention to what she's doing. And if you don't, I'm gonna come eat you.
Rawr! I'll growl. No, it's all about good. The growl is a good thing. So good night, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on Tinseltown tonight. Have a great night and see you next Tuesday. And how do I stop?
You started.